7.8 million people are interlinked. World population is almost 8 billion. If we calculate the stats, it will give a round figure of 0.975 something. It's not equal to
I think
1%.
research is very important. Research is kind of which helps advance science, the humanity in
What is
general.
the criteria? If you are publishing something or something research work or some articles,
Publishing research is expensive. A lot of people might not see that. It costs between $1,000 and $3,000 per article.
with research, but it's now 2024 and the research was
Based
like
on the number of articles. The more articles they publish, the higher their revenue.
what is the history of man, how man come to an existence. All these things are known by research. This is the power of research that now humans are going to moon, and near future they are planning to be there just because of research. But in modern age, in 2024, the young generation seems very far away from research. What is the reason behind it? And what will be the future of publishing companies? How they going to survive or not? All these questions will be addressed today in today's podcast. We will be having a professor, a dean, an entrepreneur who will be going to share his experiences. He is Chengen University Applied Sciences, Arts and Western Switzerland College of Viticulture and Enology Professor and Dean, Mr. Roland Riesen. He is running a society for the betterment of publications and for the people who want to do research. It's totally an honor for me having you on our podcast, sir. My name is Arham, and thank you so much for your precious time.
I'm fine, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be with you today.
It's an honor for us, sir, having you on our podcast. Sir, I was seeing things that I was seeing UNESCO article back in 2018. They published that 7.8 million people are interlinked with research, but it's now 2024, and the research was held in 2018. Now the world population is almost 8 billion. If we calculate the stats, it will give a round figure of 0.975 something. It's not equal to 1%. But on the other side, in 2024, you are running a publishing company, research company. So how you got an idea about this?
Yeah, I think one thing you have to understand is I think research is very important. Research is kind of which helps advance science, the humanity in general. So I think it's not a lot of people are doing research, of course, because it takes some money, it takes infrastructure, but it's not the number of people doing research that are important, but the people who are doing research that they address things of daily life. They use the history, they use the presence to help shape the future. So it's very important that the research is credible, research is high quality, and the research serves people, serves the society.
Wow, thank you so much, sir. Sir, which thing inspired you to create IVES? What is IVES? Can you elaborate? And uh, anybody inspired you for doing this? Because you have a background from a study, you are a dean as well. So, like you are like serving as a dean as well, but creating your own business, creating your own startup. So, how you got an idea for this?
Yeah, actually, it's very related to your first questions to research. The IVES is the International Viticulture and Enology Society. For those who are not familiar with this term, viticulture is the science of grape growing, and enology deals with winemaking. So it is an association which has these two topics, grape growing and winemaking, as main subject. And in fact, the question I was most often asked is why another association? Aren't there enough already? Why do you want to do something, something? And what's different? How do you differentiate yourself from the other societies? So this has to, the idea why we did it has a lot to do with my job, my position as ethnology professor and as dean. As professor, of course, you have different missions. You have to teach, that's pretty obvious, but you also have to do research and you have to publish your research. You probably have heard the term publish or perish. So there's a lot of pressure for scientists to publish because the people funding your research, they want to see what you're doing and they want to see a return of their investment. And the universities use the research and then the publications to judge you as a person, to negotiate salaries, promotions, and so on. So research is generally published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. Peer review process is a process that looks at an article for the quality, originality, and integrity. So these are also people active in research that evaluate if your publication is worth publishing. So then it's either accepted as a paper or it is rejected. And there are quite a few publishing companies who then publish your research. And here comes the first problem. Publishing research is expensive. A lot of people might not see that. It costs between $1,000 and $3,000 per article. So basically, as researcher, you have to pay that your research is published. And universities have to pay 3 times for the research. They provide the infrastructure to the research. They pay for the publication of your research, and they have to pay license fees to the big publishing companies. So this is all money that is lost for research. So we came up with the idea, why don't we create a society where everything is free? Publishing is free, but also the lecture is free. And this is called Diamond Open Access. And of course, we took some risks because this means we have to create our own journals, scientific journals. And to manage these journals, we have to have employees and we have to pay those employees. So we had to create a financial model to pay for this society, but with the advantage that we keep independence financially, but also editorially. So we can do whatever we want. We're not dependent on these big publishing companies. So we tried, and we could recruit other universities to be member of our society. And very important, we could also motivate private partners, which are typical wineries who kind of support the open access of information in their field. And this led us to this society, which is non-profit. We took some risk, but so far it works quite well. So the members and partners, that's the only source of revenue we have. They finance our operation.
That's great, sir. And the way you explain things, that is like very appreciable. Can you tell me that what is the criteria if you are publishing something or something research work or some articles? So do you have any bunch of team? Any you have people who approve those things? Because every publishing company or every research based company, they have certain criteria. So what sort of criteria you have? Like if I for example, I'm a student or I want to publish my article, so you will check it out, the stats and figures, how you measure all those things.
That's a very important process. That's a so-called peer review. So you submit an article, then we have an editor who looks at your article, and he says, is it worthwhile pursuing based on the quality? It has to be good quality and it has to be original, your research. And then he gives the article to an associate editor, and who does the same thing. He evaluates the paper and gives it to people who are active in this field, specialists. These are so-called reviewers. They do the peer review process, and they write comments. They can either accept the article, they can suggest minor or major ameliorations, improvements, or they could reject an article. And if the whole process takes several weeks, and at the end, the article is either accepted or is rejected. In our journal, we created about half of the articles are rejected because they don't meet our standards. And we have also, that's very important. I'm going to talk perhaps a little bit later about the practices of the big publishing companies. We have a code of ethics. So we want to avoid conflict of interest. We don't want that a friend is reviewing my article because that's not very, very honest. So that's very important that people follow ethical guidelines. And this is not always the case with the publishing companies. And instead, a few publishing companies, about 4 or 5, and they have a quasi-monopoly. So they kind of control the entire market. And it's a market of about, in 2020, that's the latest figures I have, about $26 billion, the whole industry of publishing industry. And because they have a monopoly, they can negotiate license fees with universities, or they can dictate license fees. And in addition, their business model is based on the number of articles. The more articles they publish, the higher their revenue. So their profit or their business model is based on profit, which is a big risk because they tend to accept more articles, even if the quality is not there. And they use other predatory tactics to increase the number of articles. So we saw this quite quickly. That's why we went ahead with our society, because we want to be independent of these big publishers. Just to give you an idea, between 2016 and 2022, in 6 years, the number of publications has increased about 50%. At the same time, the number of scientists has increased only about 10-15%, which means that each scientist has published more articles and more articles were accepted. And as I said, they use really tactics which are not ethically correct, and that's what we wanted to avoid. There is a law which says if the measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. So, for instance, a measure to gauge the importance of a journal is the so-called impact factor. So basically, it tells you how many times an article is cited. The more times an article is cited in other publications, the higher the impact factor. Now, the big companies use this measure as a target. So they manipulate the way they publish and accept articles in a way that they increase the impact factor. You have probably heard that lately a lot of articles have been retracted. I think several thousand per year. And even journals have to be retired from the market because finally they saw that some other scientists saw that the articles were not correct. They were using false data, was fraudulent data. So this is quite not a very good sign for the publishing industry, because then people in the street, they lose confidence. And if they lose confidence in science, that's what we have seen with the whole COVID epidemic. They have lost confidence in science, and that's very, very bad, because then you have all the conspiracy theories, and they can dominate what people think, and that's a big problem we want to address with our journal.
Very well explained, sir. And like transparency or originality is the key thing, I guess. Or when people or students, especially, because there are a lot of students who work hard and like they present their things. Just because from a small amount of people, they lose confidence on publishing people. Sir, financial expenses is the most important thing, managing expenses. So Can you tell a little bit strategies how you manage your expenses? Because I've seen that, I've reviewed before the podcast. I was going through your profile that you have organized a lot of physical events as well. So as you have mentioned earlier that it's very difficult for you to generate profit, but on the other side you are like doing this physical activities, physical conferences. So how you manage all these things? Do you have any marketing team, or you market these things, or you generate funds? What is the procedure? Can you elaborate for our viewers?
Sure, sure. If you want to publish an article, you have to have a publication platform. And of course, we didn't want to use the existing publishing platforms, which cost a lot of money and which have these constraints I was mentioning. So we created our own publication platform with the help of the University of Bordeaux. So this was a first step which helped decrease the expenses considerably. And then we tried to sell our idea to universities, because universities, they see the advantage of having a kind of an open source, open access journal with a high quality. So they don't have to use their money to pay license fees and publication fees. And they pay an annual fee, which is not very much. It's only about that's public. It's 5,000 euros. So it's not a lot of money. 2 or 3 publications, and you have recovered all your money. And then we have partners. So these are wineries that support this idea, and they use our information, which is also free for them, and they pay an annual fee. And that's our own, the only resource, the only funding we have. And with this, we finance our staff. They manage the journal. Our objective is not to have as many journals as possible, but we adapt the number of articles we publish to the infrastructure we have, the budget we have, and certainly, and very important, the quality. So the first criteria is the quality. If an article is good quality, we publish, which is about in 50%, it's the case. So it's clear we have to, we go to conferences to present IVES and our ideas. We talk to researchers. We know a lot of researchers personally because we have our own network, and they talk to the university accountants, and that way we are able to spread the idea and help finance our organization. We have marketing people, but we don't pay ads, let's say, for in other journals. That's too expensive. We don't really need that. It's really a lot of mouth-to-mouth marketing. And also our journal has a very high impact factor. So this kind of motivates the other researchers to publish in our journal.
That is like a very inspiring thing, that you focus on quality, not quantity. And I think that is a thing in this particular field, or in field of education, that is lacking. And a lot of people, a lot of youngsters who are watching this, they will be getting a lot of motivation. So sir, we were discussing you as a dean, as a teacher, as an entrepreneur, but now we have some, like, I have a very surprising questions for you. Like, it will be a rapid fire round. I will ask you some questions and you have to answer it very quickly. So tell me, you're a coffee person or you are a tea person? You love tea or you love coffee?
See, I have the impression I can't sleep without having an espresso before going to bed.
So it's coffee, right?
Yeah, coffee.
So you're a morning bird or you're a night owl?
Oh, morning person. Yeah.
You're
Clearly.
a morning person. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Sir, but ebooks or physical books? Let me guess, you love physical books.
I do. Yeah, yeah.
Not ebooks.
I do a lot of cycling and a lot of walking, running. Yeah, that's clearly my preferred activity.
Okay, sir, Android or iPhone?
Android. I will never buy an iPhone.
Okay, okay, never buy an iPhone. Sir, best destination for your holiday, where you want to go, like, and have to chill and you have to spend time alone. Your favorite destination for holidays?
I like, even in the winter. Now, of course, when I was getting older, this changed a little bit. I like the warm weather, sunshine, warm weather. Even in the winter, I go maybe a week or two to a sunny place just to recover and have a break in a winter time.
Okay, okay. So I think a lot of people who are seeing this, they will be getting to know that entrepreneurs, professor, teachers, they also are humans, and they can answer all these kind of questions as well, because they always have this kind of perception that they are very serious, they are very focused in life and all. Sir, you are a professor as well, you are a teacher. So I have a question in my mind that. What do you think students who are studying in books have any thing have any connection with practical life as well? Because I know a lot of students who graduated from universities, after graduating they regret, they say that professor teachers haven't taught us those things that can help us in our practical life. So what is your take as a professor, as an motivation, or as an entrepreneur?
Very important, especially in our field, is the practical application. I think science has always pretty very often the reputation of being an ivory tower. And so for us, it's very important to be open and to use the practical application. So in my teaching, for instance, when I teach enology courses, and I was a winemaker myself. I made wine. I did consulting for the industry, so I have practical examples I can give to students, and that's what they need and that's what they want. And that's also the reason why we created not only a scientific journal but also a practical journal. It's a journal for professionals, winemakers, and grape growers. It is condensed on 2 pages because they don't have a lot of time, and they use a language which is accessible for them. And we translate those articles in 6 languages so people can read in their own language, and that's very important for us. So I think at the center of us, that's why also the university is called University of Applied Sciences. So we always look at the practical application, very important to us. This helps motivate the people because they can use it afterwards.
Well, very well answered, sir. And I like the way, like student, when and your students will be really mesmerized from you, that you always been there to teach them. And I think students need to participate in things. I have another question interlinked with uh, every student who got 100 out of 100 marks, or like he's the topper, he's the gold medalist, can be a good entrepreneur as well. Like I have seen many people that they in my time, or my university fellows, they were very average students, but now they are like very good in practical life. Comparatively, if I compare them with myself, like I am like far behind with them. So this is like being a teacher or being a entrepreneur. What do you think? This is true that every student who score 100 out of 100 will get success 100% in practical life as well?
That's part of the satisfaction as a teacher. You wanna share something, your experience. You wanna help them shape the future. And I think at least in our classes, all the students are successful, not because we just give them a degree. We don't do that. I mean, they have certain criteria, but they're really interested, they're motivated, and you can imagine what kind of satisfaction this is. I have contacts with my previous students 10, 15 years afterwards. I visit them, and they tell me what they liked about my teaching, and this also helps me to improve myself. And because also time changes, so you have to change your methods of teaching, and you have to adapt to the youth nowadays, which are of course different. And this keeps you young, and this is really probably more satisfying than research itself, and certainly administration as a dean. So I really enjoy the contact with the students.
Okay, sir. What sort of skills an entrepreneur of nowadays should have? Like being an entrepreneur, being a what sort of skills should entrepreneurs should adopt according to 2024 or 2025? Next, the year is very close. Next year is very close. So, which skills you will suggest to the students for 2025? Like If you grab these skills, if you learn these skills, you will be able to get success, or you will be able to do something in your life.
Yeah, I think you need a good basic skills, a good schooling system, which, for instance, in Switzerland, it is the case. You have a very good schooling system. Um, you need to have these basic skills, even if you think you might not need them tomorrow. But you don't know what's going to happen in 10, 15 years. So this gives you a good level. But once then you're going to choose your job, or you're trying to be an entrepreneur, I would say try to be a leader, not a manager. I think that's a very important difference. Certainly, you have to give responsibility to employees. You have to have that. You want them to contribute. You want them to be independent, to take responsibility. And I think this creates a good working climate for employees, actually also for students. That's what I try in my lectures as well. You have to have them participate. And that, I think that's very important. Don't micromanage. It's not you as an entrepreneur who does the work. It's your employees. If they're happy, they're doing good work.
Okay, sir. Very well mentioned. I have like you have, as you work, as you told me that it's employees. It's not the only single person. It's whole team. When you have divided your hats, your work hats, like in the start, mostly people, when you have a startup, you are doing all things by your own. You are a HR manager. You are doing admin stuff. You're promoting your. But which period of time you realize that now, like it's time to divide the burden. I can't do all these things. And have you found the right person for the right job?
Perhaps in our case, I have to give you a little bit more detail. So we do have employees, but then we have board of directors and an executive committee. And these are volunteer jobs. So I'm chairman of the association, or the director, but I don't get paid. So this is kind of part of let's say, your mission, or you do some service to the community, to society, and that's my job. And so I gave guidelines to the employees, give some directives, and that's what the board of directors decide. But then it's up to the employees to execute. And then quite often they have suggestions because they're directly involved in the process of doing things. So they tell us, why don't we do it this way or that way, and we listen to it. And in many cases, it works well, and we then adjust our strategy.
So thank you so much, sir. We have a very good time with you. Uh, Before leaving, any message for youngsters, for young entrepreneurs you want to give? Like any sort of message you want to give? Any advice for them?
Be motivated. You have to take risks, of course. Take those risks, but always have a business plan. You always think ahead of time, try to anticipate. Don't just start something without really knowing where you want to go. You have to have a goal, an objective. You have to evaluate if you're on your way periodically, after a few months, after a year or so. You have to look back, say, am I at the place where I should be now? Where do I want to go? Stepwise go ahead. So have a good business plan and listen to other people. Listen to advice to some colleagues, but be firm, have your own strategy.
So I have learned a lot of things from you, sir. Thank you so much for your precious time, and it was totally an honor for me having you on our podcast. And I hope all the listeners, all the viewers who have this podcast, they have learned a lot of things, and who want to be a researcher or who want to start their career in this particular field, they will get a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, it was a big pleasure for me as well to share things, and then your question also helped me to think, actually, to think what I have done, what I can suggest. So it was a really great pleasure and very interesting questions, and I think I could share my ideas behind IVES, and also perhaps a little bit philosophy of life, and the way to do business with you. Also, thanks to your great questions.
It's an totally an honor. Thank you so much for your kind words, sir. And I hope you guys going to like this video. You're going to like this podcast. For podcasts like this, do subscribe our channel and share it with your friends. So we will going to meet you in next podcast. Till then, bye bye.